Where have I been sending my tasteful news? If they convince themselves that there is a spirit, they'll create the spirit, or some such nonsense.
That sounds a lot like George Costanza's "It's Not a Lie If You Believe It."
Alien arms shoot out her boobs.
Yeah.
And choke the two leads.
This is where, in the early days of Fright Club, back before we worried about music publishing rights and all that, we would play Andy Williams. It's the most wonderful time of the year. Welcome to the annual Skeletons in the Closet edition of the Fright Club podcast. And she is Hope Madden.
He's George Wolf.
And we're from madwolf.com. Yes, Skeletons in the Closet always comes right on the heels of the Oscar nominations.
That is correct, where we look back at the horror past, and specifically the really, really bad horror past of some of the nominees.
Yeah, normally we like to celebrate the good films.
That's right, we do.
But this is fun, and it's fun because since they're Oscar nominees this year, we know they've gone on to bigger and better things.
That's right.
So it's fun to celebrate these. And this actually came out of back when we were writing a long time ago. Was this out of UK Film Review or Screen Relish? You were doing a story on something like that, and I said, that sounds like Skeletons in the Closet.
Yeah, I
and
think,
went on from there.
But it was all the way back at Screen Relish.
Yeah.
So that's been like 10, 11, 12 years.
Yeah. So it just was a fun idea,
Yep.
and we've just been doing it every year, and it's perfect for the Fright Club podcast because it also, and looking down the list of the films we got for this week, it follows in the pattern of talking about a lot of movies that we haven't before. And
Yes.
we really would have no reason to.
That's right. That's right.
Because they're not very good. But along the way, too, we'll talk about some of the Oscar nominees and the categories that these performers are nominated in and see what we think, if they have a shot of winning.
Sure.
How it's going to go. But before we get into that, let's go back to Horrific Homecomings. Our last episode, we were at Fright Club Live, Gateway Film Center, and we showed the film Possum. I think most people liked it.
Yes, I did too, and it's the creepy one, and it's funny. I think the number one thing at the end is people are like, "Why is it called Possum?"
Yeah.
And Danny was there. He was one of the filmmakers for the short that we showed, and he had a great. It's because there's a puppet. And is he just playing dead the whole time?
Yeah.
Is he really alive, or is he playing dead? And I thought, well, that's a good theory.
Very good, yeah.
I like that theory.
Exactly. See, we have intelligent,
That's right.
thoughtful film fans.
That's right.
That come out to Fright Club Live, and that was great. Plus, Dustin would have liked to have seen Dead Silence make the list, and it did deserve a mention.
It did. I mean, it wouldn't have been in our top 5 because it's dumb as hell. But it's got some fun moments, and it's exactly that pattern. He goes back to his hometown, and then all hell breaks loose, and there are puppets.
Yeah, so that was fun, and we look forward to doing it again. Well, you look forward to doing it again because I'm not going to be there for the next Fright Club
That's
Live, but
right.
we'll get to that. But yeah, we had fun as always, and now it's up to the Skeletons in the Closet podcast as we react to the Oscar nominations, which actually caught us by surprise.
But you know what? Real quick, we want to thank our partner, Ginger Nuts of Horror.
Oh yeah, of course.
Of course we do. And you'll be able to find this podcast on Ginger Nuts of Horror, gnofhorror.com, but you'll also be able to find all kinds of really great things, movie reviews, book reviews, articles.
They're all about
cool
it.
stuff. And follow them on Blue Sky. They're a super fun follow on Blue Sky.
They are. Getting a lot more followers, a lot more activity over there on Blue Sky. I love it. So, so we're talking about the Oscar nominations. They did catch us by surprise. They were understandably delayed at least a couple of weeks because of the wildfires out there in the L.A. area. And I just thought they were still being delayed, and then we woke up that morning, and boom, here they come. And, of course, at the top of the list, we have to say congratulations to The Substance. 5 big nominations, including Best Picture, Best Director, Demi Moore for Best Actress. So a lot of love for The Substance, which means a lot of love for horror, which is always good.
Yeah, and Substance is not alone. Of course, Nosferatu got 4 nominations, not the ones we wanted it to get.
No.
But at least it did get nomination for cinematography. And then Alien Romulus got one for visual effects. So it was
exactly.
all told, it was a pretty good year for horror.
Yeah, and I know not everybody was on board with Alien Romulus, but we liked it.
Yeah, we did.
liked it.
It was
thought it was
fun.
a fun ride.
Yeah.
So it's always great when horror gets that, I guess, official stamp of recognition during the awards season, because so often a film, let's say Get Out, a few years ago, deservedly got all the awards consideration. But then once it did, people were like, well, it's really a thriller.
Yeah, it's true.
No, it's not.
I know. Get Out got nominated for Best Picture, and people called it a thriller. And it got nominated for Best Picture at the Golden Globes under under musical or comedy.
Right.
Which is that?
Yeah.
Yeah, it was just dumb as hell. I mean, The Substance, you're not going to be able to rebrand as a thriller. No, that's a horror movie.
But,
Same with Nosferatu. That's a horror movie.
I mean, but some people still try with Silence of the Lambs.
Oh, yeah,
come
that's a thriller.
No, just accept that horror movies can be very, very good movies.
That's
Genre films. Celebrate them.
That's right.
And it's great to see it this year.
Silence of the Lambs. It's about a man who eats human flesh, helping somebody track down a man who wears human flesh. It's,
exactly.
It's a musical comedy.
Also, horror fans may remember another one of the big movies this year up for Academy Awards and many other awards during award season. Brady Corbet is the co-writer and director of The Brutalist, and he started out as an actor.
Yeah.
And
yeah.
And horror fans may remember him as one of those home invaders in the English language version of Funny Games.
That's right. He was Peter to Michael Pitt's Paul. He looks quite different now, but
he does.
It was. I mean, that's a divisive film. We love that movie.
Yeah.
And then he also, a few years ago, one of his last acting credits, he wrote and starred in the movie Simon Killer, which is also
enjoyed that.
Yeah, I did too.
Yeah, enjoyed that. So now he's up for some serious hardware. And The Brutalist, not a horror film.
Oh, not at all.
But boy, so worth seeing, especially on the big screen. Also, more horror veterans nominated this year. Our favorite Coleman Domingo from Candyman, of
from
course.
Candyman.
Yeah, he is up for Sing Sing.
And I feel like probably Adrian Brody is the front runner there, but my vote is for him.
Me too.
For Coleman Domingo for Sing Sing.
Me too. I wish Sing Sing would have been nominated for Best Picture.
Me too.
I loved it.
Yeah.
Also, a vet from Scream, the 2022 version, Mikey Madison.
Right, up for lead actress. She was so great in Honora. She was so good.
So good. And Jeremy Strong, who was up for a supporting role, he played Roy Cohn and was great in The Apprentice. He was in The Happening, but is it horror? Because it's just not scary at all.
No, it's not. Just kind of lays there.
It does. But Jeremy Strong is great. So a lot to be excited about for the Academy Awards. Hopefully, the show in itself is as entertaining as last year.
It was so fun last year.
Last year was great.
It was so fun last year. Of course, Ryan Gosling's song and dance, that
Fantastic.
Was such a highlight. And where have I been sending my tasteful nudes?
Kate McKinnon.
Kate McKinnon, who she should just be on every show.
It was an all-around good show.
It was
and
a
this
great
year
show.
they've got Conan O'Brien. Everybody likes him.
That's
so
right.
Looking forward to it. All right, so Skeletons in the Closet. No, we've already laid out the rules. You have to be Oscar nominated this year, and you have to have been in a bad horror movie.
Right.
That's fun.
I think so.
All right, so let's dive in. Speaking of The Apprentice, Sebastian Stan stars as Donald Trump in that, and he's nominated this year. But back in 2012, he was in a film about a couple haunted by a supernatural presence that is unleashed during a college experiment, The Apparition.
What happened to her?
We opened the door and it came through.
What does it want from us?
It's like a virus. It knows you're afraid. It spreads from one person to another. It wants to be in our world. It wants us.
Get out of my house!
Once you believe it's real, you die.
He was also in The Covenant, which is bad, but it's not as bad as The Apparition.
Well, let's go back. First of all, let's go back and look at who he's up against.
Because he's nominated for Best Actor for A Different Man.
Yeah, he was also great as Donald Trump.
Yeah, he was.
in the Apprentice. Great. He's up for A Different Man. He's up against, as we mentioned, Coleman Domingo for Sing Sing, Adrian Brody for The Brutalist, Timothy Chalamet, Complete Unknown, and Ralph Fiennes in Conclave. That's a tough one. I think right now you're probably right, Adrian Brody, but I think Timothy Chalamet might be coming up on
Really?
Well, it's hard early. It's early.
It is early.
You don't really have a sense of momentum, but
No.
they're certainly putting him on the media blitz. He just did SNL, and I think a lot of people like that film. I don't know. I'm not making that my official pick. I'm just saying. I think he could come around on the outside. But probably not. I don't expect Sebastian Stan to have a chance of winning, but it's just moving him up notches and notches on the list here because he has two great performances this year, and this one got him the nomination.
But back in 2012, he was in this god-awful haunted house movie. And he co-stars with Ashley Greene from Twilight.
Right.
And also Tom Felton, right, from the Harry Potter films.
Right.
And the movie doesn't make any sense at all. It's dumb as hell. You know, essentially, when Sebastian Stan's in college with Tom Felton, they conduct an experiment, like a sort of a seance, sort of not. They use a lot of electronic equipment, and what they believe is that if they convince themselves that there is a spirit, they'll create the spirit, or some such nonsense.
That sounds a lot like George Costanza's It's Not a Lie If You Believe It.
It's not a stupid movie if you don't think so. You know, the experiment in college goes way haywire, and then some years later, we're not really sure how many years later, Sebastian Stan's character, Ben, and Kelly, which is the Ashley Greene character, she knows nothing of the old experiment, and they move into a condo that her parents have bought, like an investment home, and then crazy stuff starts happening. None of it ever makes any sense. It's one of those movies where one scene doesn't really lead to the next scene. And where the whatever the mythology is that you're supposed to be uncovering is never explained at all. So it's just a bunch of nonsense, and it just leads to more nonsense. And I think the biggest problem, besides the fact that it's not scary, is just boring. It's just boring.
And that's probably worse than being not scary. At least be interesting.
And it's one of those things, you know, Sebastian Stan absolutely eventually sort of found his groove.
Oh, yeah.
But in his early work, he's just that pouty guy whose hair sticks out. He's just real pouty, and his hair kind of goes off in all directions, and that's essentially
but this is why
his role.
It's a step to something better.
Yes.
And this was the directing and screenwriting debut for Todd Lincoln. It was nominated in 2012 for the Chainsaw Award for Worst Film. It was actually completed in 2010, but delayed for over 2 years. Warner Brothers had ended its relationship with Dark Castle Entertainment, and then when it finally came out, Warner Brothers gave it the smallest wide release for a major motion picture in its distribution history.
Wow.
So I don't think it had a lot of faith in the film either.
No. Dumb as hell.
Yeah, and if you are going to see it, don't look too long at the poster and don't watch the theatrical trailer, because it pretty much gives away the ending.
Yes, it
just
does.
Throws it out there.
Yeah.
So if you want anything to be surprised by at all, stay away from that. But definitely a skeleton in the closet for Oscar nominee Sebastian Stan, The Apparition from 2012. Number 5 on this year's Skeletons in the Closet list. Okay, moving up to number 4, a renowned exorcist teams up with a rookie priest for his first day of training, and as they plunge deeper into hell on earth, the lines between good and evil blur and their own demons emerge. This is Guy Pearce co-starring in 2021's The Seventh Day.
That demon was the strongest I've ever seen. Evil is clever. It needs an army, and an army needs soldiers. So they can grow more and more powerful. Never score to settle.
Guy Pearce, who you just mentioned, is nominated for an Oscar for lead act. No, that's not true.
Supporting actor.
That's right.
Supporting actor in The Brutalist. Yeah, he is the rich tycoon that hires Adrian Brody's character. But here, he's playing a priest.
He is playing the veteran exorcist.
I'm sorry.
And it's funny because, the Archbishop is Stephen Lang, great character actor Stephen Lang.
Yeah.
And then Father Louis, who they call Guy Pearce in because we lose Father Louis, and he's the great Keith David. So there's a lot of fun veteran actors in this movie, and nothing else fun happens. There's not another fun moment in the whole movie. And there's a clever premise buried here someplace. The filmmaker, writer-director is Justin P. Lang, and he made a movie a few years prior to this called The Dark. It's a terrible title. I really enjoyed the movie. It has like this YA premise that winds up working out really well, and I very much enjoyed it. And then I was kind of looking forward to this because of that, and then it's terrible. So, the thing about Guy Pearce, when this movie came out, I had just seen sort of a horror/thriller where he plays an author who's being stalked. And just before that, I saw a sci-fi thriller in the future, which was like a Blade Runner ripoff. And the thing about Guy Pearce is he makes like 12 movies a year.
Yeah.
And most of them are awful.
Yeah.
And I'm not sure why he does it. Just compulsive production. I don't know. And this is one of the ones that's just throwaway and terrible. And it's not the only one. Actually, I think from the same year is the movie Sunrise.
Oh, yeah.
Which is kind of a vampire sort of a movie, but there's no blood and nothing happens, and it's so dull. And so this one is less dull. It's just stupid.
But even though he makes all these movies, and plenty of them are not very good, it doesn't seem like he's just mailing it in.
That's true.
Usually.
No, it's true.
Yeah. I mean, he's not going to get Oscar nominated for these films, but especially when you put him up against some of the other people in the cast. I'm thinking another guy that does this somewhat often is Stephen Dorff.
Yeah.
Who's
He's always good.
Elevates things. Yeah.
That's true.
And so you're right. Guy Pearce just turns around. You turn around and he's in another movie and something bad like this. And especially when it's like an exorcism movie.
Yeah.
What are you bringing new to the genres, so to speak? That's hard after all these years and all these films.
Yeah, and that's the thing too. The twist, it just doesn't hold any water. The twist doesn't, and it comes so late in the movie that you've just slogged through everything boring and tedious to get to it. Yeah, just no.
I know, but Keith David, yeah.
I know.
There's another guy.
We don't get enough Keith David, I'll tell you that.
One thing about it, no visual effects were used except for the removal of wires and rigs. Other than that, they shot everything on camera. Okay.
All right.
Respect that. But you have to be interesting.
Yeah, you do.
You have to be interesting in this. Not really.
Nope.
The Seventh Day. Speaking of, we didn't mention Guy Pearce. We mentioned his nomination. It's for The Brutalist. He's up against, in the supporting actor category, Jeremy Strong. We mentioned him in The Apprentice. Edward Norton for A Complete Unknown. Kieran Culkin for A Real Pain. And Yura Borisov for Anora. We both think Kieran Culkin is the front runner here, who's great. I mean, these are all very good performances. They are. But Kieran Culkin won the Golden Globe, which is not always...
No, it's not much of a predictor.
But he seems to have all the momentum, and he's just great.
He's so great.
Yeah.
He's so great in that movie. He carries it. Which is not to say that anybody else is not good in it.
No, they're all
Jesse
strong.
Eisenberg is quite good in it as well. But yeah, he's magnificent in that role.
Yeah, and all these performances, like I said, Jeremy Strong, fantastic as Roy Cohn in The Apprentice. All these performances are good. I was glad to see, there were a couple of supporting performances in Anora I thought were award worthy.
Oh, for sure.
And this certainly,
Yuri.
certainly is
My
one,
God, he was
especially
great.
because how important he is at the end of the movie.
Yeah.
He's kind of lays back. The other guy, the Russian fixer, I thought also was very, very good.
Yeah.
And he takes the lead early. He's the main supporting character of the Russians. But then this guy comes in at the end, and he's quite good.
Yeah,
so.
and he has a lovely chemistry with everybody in the film. Yeah, and it's a very complicated character that he makes seem effortless.
Yeah, but congrats to all of them. Congrats to Guy Pearce. Has he been nominated before, Guy Pearce?
Mm-mm.
All right. So there's a long career, veteran career.
Oh, and speaking of, veterans, the horror film to point out from Guy Pearce is Ravenous.
Oh, yeah.
God, I love that movie.
For sure.
Love that movie.
But Guy Pearce up this year for The Brutalist. Good luck to him. And he is in number 4 on our Skeletons in the Closet list from 2021, The Seventh Day. Up to number 3, and this one co-stars Guy Pearce's co-star in The Brutalist, although he uses a different name in this movie. It's from 2009. In Italy, a woman fears her sister has been kidnapped. Inspector Enzo Afolfi fears it's worse. They team up to rescue her from a sadistic killer known only as Yellow in Giallo.
What do we got here?
Another body. Appears to be our guy.
Hey, Piazza Vittorio's that way.
His methods are brutal.
Stop the car!
And he's hiding in plain sight.
Kiss, no more.
My sister is missing. She was supposed to meet me at our apartment.
Is mine.
Now, with every clue,
Like most of these cases, the suspects are motivated by the ritual. They savor it.
one man,
The methods aren't exactly by the book.
his motives are twisted.
She's a monster.
You have no idea.
Steps closer to a killer
Why don't you tell me what's going on here?
and deeper
Tell me where she is.
into madness.
Sometimes you gotta do what must be done.
Yeah, this is Adrian Brody, who in this movie is using the pseudonym Byron Deidre, which is an anagram on his name.
Huh.
Yeah, he had to fight, I guess, after the film was over to get paid.
Oh.
And held it up. He set a lawsuit in motion. They failed to pay his full price, and he blocked the film's release in
Good
court.
for him.
And then the makers had to pay up. So I think that's probably why he's using a pseudonym. Right. I'm guessing.
Maybe also because he's embarrassed.
Maybe
because it's fucking terrible.
So Byron Deidre is actually Adrian Brody in this film. Dario Argento.
Yeah. Yep, he directed and co-wrote this one, and it's kind of obviously the film is titled Giallo, which is the sort of the brand of his other films, all of his films. It's also the type of film this is to a certain degree. It's a lurid detective story, the brilliant red blood and all of that. He plays. So this is a spoiler. He plays two characters.
Yeah.
Adrian Brody does. And it's not that he's bad. And if you watch very much Dario Argento, the performances aren't the point. The dialogue is stilted and dumb, and so it's very hard to get like a real gritty performance out of anybody in any of Argento's films, even the really good ones. But this is not one of the really good ones. It's a disappointment in a lot of ways. For me, it's a disappointment partly because I think the thing that made early Argento so fascinating, one of many things, is like his preoccupation with architecture. Like he made each city look so glorious and ethereal and sinister and weird. And God, that is lacking of everything he's done since the early 90s, probably since opera. And it's sorely lacking here, which is just very mundane to look at. This whole film is.
That's so appropriate because, of course, Adrian Brody is nominated for an architect.
That's right.
A brutalist architect.
That's right.
In the Brutalist. So it's full circle there.
It is. I mean, again, the writing, the plotting is never really the reason that you go into an Argento film. But here it's so flat. It's so dull. It's so borrowed. There's nothing visually interesting about this movie, and so that I think in most of his films, it's a thing that you're fine with. You're like, yeah, I don't care that this is more or less dumb because look at how amazing this is. Look how weird this looks. Look at this.
Yeah.
But when you lose that, which you don't have here, there's nothing visually appealing about this movie. Well, then why are you watching it? So yeah, I really don't like this movie.
Yeah, I'm not, as you know, I'm not a big Argento fan or Giallo fan anyway. But I get your point. If you remove that keeps your eyes at least entertained.
Oh yeah.
Of what's happening? Then what are we doing? Vincent Gallo was originally set to play the lead role of Yellow. Dropped out because Asia Argento was his ex-fiancée was cast, so he didn't want to act with her. But then she was replaced, and then I think Ray Liotta stepped in before Adrian Brody finally got the part. So all in all, this was not seems like a good experience for anybody, much less the audience.
No.
And that's why it's number 3 on our Skeletons in the Closet. So we already talked about the nominees for Best Actor. In addition to Adrian Brody, Timothy Chalamet, Coleman Domingo, Ralph Fiennes, and Sebastian Stan. We're hoping for Coleman Domingo.
We are.
I think for sure.
Yeah. Nothing against. I mean, Adrian Brody was great.
Nothing
really
against
was.
any of them.
All of these guys were great, but yeah,
they really were.
Coleman
they really
Domingo,
were, but
all
I'd love
day.
to see Coleman Domingo get that due. We shall see. But number 3 on our Skeletons in the Closet for 2024 is Adrian Brody in Giallo from 2009.
And actually, he's been in a lot of decent, not a lot of great horror, but a lot of decent horror. Wrecked, I enjoyed, is really a one-man show.
Yeah, I did like that, yeah.
Predators, that was a fun one.
Yep.
Splice, that's fun. That's a great WTF movie.
It sure, boy, yeah.
The Jacket I liked as well, very claustrophobic. And then The Summer of Sam, Spike Lee Summer of Sam. And they're all pretty good.
Yeah.
The Village I don't like, but it has its
So that could have been a Skeleton in the Closet.
Could have been.
But we went with this one.
Yeah.
Giallo.
Oh, it's way worse. Giallo is
way worse. Number 3 on our list this year from 2009, Giallo. And moving up to number 2, this is from 2008. A pair of newspaper reporters receive help from an unlikely accomplice in their effort to stave off an alien invasion. Isabella Rossellini in Infected.
These are frightening times. There is no happy ending anymore. The mayor has just been shot.
They were using the water to make people sick.
To what end?
We have to figure out what this is.
It's some kind of protein. Would be found in all living things, except it's only found in space.
I have found your anomaly.
Hey, how come you know about all of these things?
Because I am one of them.
Why bring us here?
To help you save yourselves from the plan.
You mean the invasion?
Get the hell out of there now!
This is a quarantine failure. You fail, knowledge spreads.
There is something, generally speaking, really sad when it's somebody as grand and amazing as Isabella Rossellini, and you find a skeleton that's so relatively recent and late in her career.
Yeah.
But then there's just, I feel like I know the reason she took this part. So it's just a terrible movie. And it's essentially, I mean, it's labeled a made-for-TV movie.
Yeah.
I don't know what TV station because they say fuck. So I don't know. But I don't get to watch much TV.
Late night stations.
Yeah, so I don't know. But and Judd Nelson, when Judd Nelson comes in is about the time we lose Isabella Rossellini in this movie. And he's so bad. and I know he's trying to do something, but it's not working. It's just terrible. I mean, the whole movie is just really, really bad. It is. It's an alien invasion movie. It has a lot, actually, thematically, it's a great double feature with the movie we're going to talk about at number one. They have a lot in common. But Isabella Rossellini is the editor of this newspaper where the two leads, played by Gil Bellows and Maxim Roy, where they are trying to solve this crazy murder conspiracy theory kind of a situation going on at the same time as the Boston Plague, where people are just getting sick and being rounded up. Now, this is 2008, so it's not as if it's a sort of like a COVID metaphor at all, but they do have some interesting things to say in retrospect. But what it's really is, aliens are using water to infect people with alien blood, and then this parasitic takeover, right? That's how they reproduce. I'm not giving away spoilers because they do tell you this in the trailer, but also you don't want to watch this movie. But you could watch it just for like the first, I don't know how long, the Isabella Rossellini role. She's, right away she's a baddie. And she's fun in that role as the baddie, as the editor. And then at the moment when she turns bad, she literally turns around and alien arms shoot out her boobs.
Yeah.
And choke the two leads. And then she's saved by, they are saved by Judd Nelson. I just feel like that's why she took it. She had to, will they shoot out my boobs? Okay, then I'm in.
I'm in.
I mean, it's just bad. It's low budget. The effects are terrible. The writing is bad. It's a little bit fun and funny in that sort of campy bad way.
Yeah.
It's also a little bit boring.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, it's not quite enough. But if you just stick it out just for her part, that's fun.
Yeah. And she's nominated for Best Supporting Actress this year in a really small part from Conclave. Not that she's not good. She is. But she is up against Monica Barbaro from A Complete Unknown, Ariana Grande, Wicked, Felicity Jones in The Brutalist, and Zoe Saldana in Amelia Perez. Right now, I'd have to say Zoe Saldana, I think it would be the front runner for me.
I would think, because while it is a supporting role, it's a big role.
It's a big role,
and she does an amazing job in it.
She's really, and she does, and so does Felicity Jones. I thought Felicity Jones was as good as I've ever seen her in The Brutalist. And they're all good. They're all good. I really, as good as Isabella Rossellini is in Conclave, I probably would have taken her out of this category and put in Danielle Deadweiler.
Oh, anybody.
For the piano lesson.
I would have taken anybody out of this and put in Danielle Deadweiler.
But just because the part is so small,
right?
It's an important part, and of course she brings a lot to it. Just having her in the movie, and it's a fantastic. Conclave has maybe the best ensemble of the year. It's fantastic. But so I don't anticipate Isabella Rossellini winning, but you never know. And Conclave's certainly better than this. This is our number 2.
And she has, not everybody would call either of these movies horror. I don't know. Death Becomes Her, which is fun.
Yeah,
and she's got a really fun role in Death Becomes Her.
She
and
does.
Then Blue Velvet, which is a masterpiece.
Yeah.
Whether you think of it as horror or you don't think of it as horror, it is a masterpiece. And we should probably have a moment of silence because we did lose David Lynch very recently, which is such a heartbreak.
That really was. Really was. Number 2 on our list of skeletons in the closet this year, Infected with Isabella Rossellini from 2008. And that leaves room for only one at the top, starring someone we think has a good chance of winning. This is from 1982. In a post-apocalyptic USA, a doctor scientist infected with a new strain of parasite ends up in a small desert town trying to find a cure. Demi Moore in Parasite.
In a dark and distant age, Genetic science will create a new breed of terror to enslave our people. They will design a creature that feeds on human flesh, one that cannot be destroyed, that must kill to survive. They will unleash the ultimate predator. Parasite, with Demi Moore in one of her first starring roles.
So when this came out in 1982, it was in 3D. 3D!
Yes. Yeah. There was really a wave of a bunch of 3D movies.
Yeah.
I mean, you had the Jaws 3D, you had Friday the 13th Part 3 in 3D, Amityville 3D, and a bunch of other lesser ones you may not have heard of. But yeah,
like this.
Yeah, like this. But this is not only notable for Demi Moore, now Oscar nominee. This is where she met her first husband, where she got the name Moore. Freddie Moore is in this movie as well.
I did not realize.
Yeah, it's her first husband.
Okay. And also, Sherry Curry is in this movie.
Yeah, from The Runaways.
From The Runaways.
Yeah.
So that was actually, in 1982, that was a bigger deal.
Yeah, yeah, it was, yeah.
That was a bigger deal that she was in
sure.
it. This is from Cleveland's own Charles Band.
Yes, a guest here.
That's right.
A couple of years back.
Yep,
on
we
the
had him on.
podcast.
That's right.
Friend of the show.
Friend of the show. I think he's directed 150 movies.
Yeah, I could have listened to him tell stories forever.
Oh, yeah. And then he's produced even more. I mean,
Yeah.
the stuff that he's produced is crazy. I think the one he's probably most known for is Trancers, like the one people would have seen. But not that many people have seen that either. But he's kind of a legend in a Roger Corman sort of way. And this is very much in keeping with his other films. One of his earliest that he directed, actually. And one of the things I love about it is the Parasite when they show it, because the movie Killer Condom, which is another favorite of mine.
Yeah.
I always thought that it patterned its Killer Condom after the Parasite in Parasite. I mean, they have a very similar way of moving and mouth, and and so that's fun. It is a fun-looking, goofy villain, and it's a bad movie for sure, but it's on the whole one of those bad movies that keeps your attention because while it's not campy, like they're not doing it on purpose, they just have a way of making bad horror movies that are terrible and yet compelling.
Well, about 5 years or so ago, Demi Moore was on the Late Show with James Corden, and said this was the worst movie that she has ever been in.
Oh yeah, absolutely. I don't think there's any question about that. And she was in some bad movies.
She was,
but no, this is terrible. It's just one of those where like early on, the doctor who's been infected, he comes across these almost like Road Warrior-esque people, and there's a woman and she's screaming and her hair just stands out in all directions, and they rip her shirt off, and then she just appears periodically the rest of the movie. She never reattaches her shirt, and she just screams and claws at people, and there's no reason for it.
Well, we were waiting for something to shoot out.
That's right, exactly.
That never happened.
No, it didn't ever happen.
You got to only go to one movie for that.
That's right.
But you mentioned Sherry Curry from The Runaways had some clout back in the early '80s, and she didn't want to do this movie. I guess at first thought that it was terrible, but the producers agreed to rewrite, expand her role. So then she agreed to do it. But then after filming was completed, they cut all that. The old bait and switch to get you in the movie. But Demi Moore is the Oscar nominee in this movie. But, it sounds like she's got a good humor about it. I mean, struggling. They're new. You got to take some roles and pay your dues. And
she looks like she's about 12. Yeah, she does. And, it's one of those, usually when you watch people who go on to be Oscar nominees and you see them in these early movies, they stand out as being like among the best.
Yeah.
And she actually does, but at the same time, it's so badly written that there's nothing you can do with this. There's nothing you can do with it.
Yeah.
But she doesn't embarrass herself.
And she is up against, in Best Actress category, she's up against Mikey Madison for Nora, Carla Sofia Gascon for Amelia Perez, Cynthia Erivo in Wicked, and maybe a surprise, Fernanda Torres from I'm Still Here. Great group, but I think Demi Moore has the edge right now. I would say she'd be the favorite.
Yeah, I think probably not by a wide margin, but I think you could be right. And that's who I'm pulling for. I'm going to be honest. I'm rooting for her to win.
Yeah, I mean, it's a great, not that she was down and out, so to speak, but she, as she said in her speech for the Golden Globe, she thought that her career may have been over.
Yeah.
And so everybody loves that comeback story, especially when somebody was as big as she was at the time. She was the highest paid actress, I think, back when she did with G.I. Jane, maybe?
Yep.
That her payday at the time was the highest for an actress.
Yeah, of all time,
at
that time.
She was on top of the world there for a while.
Yeah, she was. But it wouldn't just be like a great story. I mean, she's great.
She's great in it.
She's great
in
this movie.
Yeah, definitely so.
Yeah. And honestly, I'm rooting for it all for everything.
Yeah.
I don't see it winning under those things, but that's my pick for everything.
And it's a demanding role.
Oh my God,
It
yes.
really is. It's a demanding role, and you're right. She is great in it, definitely. So I think she's, at least right now, for me, the favorite. But you never know. We shall see. But congratulations to all the Oscar nominees who have gone on to such bigger and better things from their skeletons in the closet. So these are 5 movies that I don't think we had talked about any of them ever. There hadn't been a previous skeleton.
No.
Because sometimes that's the best reason that they get recycled, because somebody's in.
They've been nominated again. Exactly.
And if they haven't made that many horror movies, you got to use them. But no, we haven't talked about any of these.
No.
So if you're looking for a little research on these Oscar nominees, or just maybe want a good laugh or something, you can look them up. But that's this year's group of skeletons in the closet, a good bad list.
That's right.
Okay, looking ahead to next week. You're going to be back at Gateway Film Center for the Valentine's Day edition with a special guest host.
That's right. So the reason that George is not going to be with us is because he's going to Austin, Texas for the Austin Revolution Film Festival, because the short film Al Fresco, which you directed, is nominated for all kinds of things at that festival.
Yes, and you wrote it, a great script. We had a great time. And so, very appreciative.
Yes.
To get all these nominations for the Austin Revolution Film Festival. Looking forward to it. But I'm sorry to miss it, but we're going to have our friend Greg Hansberry, who we just had on a few weeks back.
That's right.
Halloween Hansberry.
That's right. No, he had us on.
That's right. He had us on.
Because he hosts the Empty Coffin podcast, and we talked about Nosferatu.
Yeah. So this is us returning the favor, and it's perfect because we have a spot where he can step right in. I mean, he's very, very experienced with podcasts.
Yes, and with recording podcasts and with being in front of a live audience.
Right.
And so, he and I are going to talk about video nasties. So films that revolve around a nasty video. And then we're going to show the movie Censor.
Love that.
Oh, it's such a great movie. It's such a great movie. So I'm excited about that. I'm excited for everybody to catch it. I'll miss you, but I think that we'll still have fun.
I think I'm hopeful that not many people in the audience will have seen it. It seems like a movie that maybe a lot have not seen. And that'll be good because it's a good one.
It is. It's
a good
so
one.
good. Yeah.
So if you're in the Columbus, Ohio area, perfect Valentine's Day
That's
date night.
right. That's
Joining
right.
us at Gateway Film Center for the latest edition of Fright Club Live. So that'll be good. All right. In the meantime, what do you think about these skeletons in the closet? Are they bad enough to be a skeleton? We think so, and maybe you want to do some research on your own, but let us know. We always love to keep the conversation going. You can find us anytime on all the socials at Mad Wolf Columbus, and of course the main website is madwolf.com. And we'd love to have you, if you haven't joined the Fright Club Podcast Facebook page, give a request to join, and boom, you're in. Plus, Fright Club has its own pages on
Blue Sky
and also Instagram.
That's right.
Always a lot of Fright Club fun going on. We hope you join in. In the meantime, stay in touch, be well, and until next time, she is Hope Madden.
He's George Wolf.
And this is the Fright Club Podcast.
Hello, darling. This is Elvira, Mistress of the Dark. And stay frightful, my friends.
Yeah.